Ladies and gentlemen, Cylord, this is my response video, and we're just going to wrap up this particular element right now before we move on to some other things, and Cylord's going to put that on the table for us in the next video. Now, what Cylord said about men's mental health is not just a cultural phenomenon or a myth, it's essentially a fact. But this fact is actually more far-ranging than what people will generally realize, and that's a bit about what we're going to talk about in this part. Homewood tells us that 10% of men experience some form of mental health challenge in their lives. I'd like you to bear that in mind as we mention some other things. Now, we don't want to get too caught up with the numbers, as Stats Canada reports that only 67% of Canadians reported having excellent to good mental health. We're going to come back to that number shortly. Again, according to Stats Canada, 70% of males reported good to excellent mental health, 30% did not. By the way, that's a big number. So, where does that 10% fit into the schema? Well, it's rather simple when you break it down logically. This means that out of the 30% of men who have less than good mental health, 10% had a form of severe mental illness. The other 20% either had a mild or acute mental health challenge. If there are 100 men, then 30 out of those 100 men have a mental illness, and 10 out of those people have a severe mental illness. What's that you say? You'd like more perspective? Yes, please. In 2021, according to Statista.com, there were 19.24 million women in Canada and 19.01 million men in Canada. So out of 19.01 million men, that equates to 5,730,000 men that have a mental illness. Out of these men, 573,000 men have a severe form of mental illness. Women were reported to have said that excellent to good mental health to the tune of about 64%. Women are experiencing far worse mental health outcomes than men, at least in Canada. But I'm going to do better than that. I always like to go the extra mile. I'm going to qualify these figures in just a moment. So, 19.24 million women in Canada and 64% reported excellent to good mental health. That actually translates to 12,313,600 women who have excellent to good mental health, right? So that means that by contrast, 6,926,400 don't. Add 5,730,000 men plus 6,926,400 equals 12,656,400 Canadians have less than good mental health. And by the way, out of those numbers, the total amount of Canadians is 38,340,000 Canadians altogether. So if anybody is going to tell me that there is not a mental health crisis, I would tell you to look up these sources, do the math, and see for yourself what's really going on. So easy again to see through the smoke screen. 33% of Canadians are experiencing less than good mental health. 1/3 of the population is suffering from a mental health crisis. We have to stop minimizing the issue here. That's a defense mechanism, not a solution. If 1 in 5 Canadians experiences a mental health issue, that means that 3.5 people in that group have excellent to good mental health. Since people count as whole numbers, let's call this 4. Let's extrapolate this number a bit to 20 people. 4 people out of every 20 experience a mental health issue. Out of this 4 people, 3 derive a benefit from the mental health therapy, and the other one does not. 2 out of 20 is 10%. So, 4 in every 20 has a mental illness, and 10% of that is so severe that they receive no benefit. That's still not good enough. If we take a 50-50 split of this group as men and women, That means that 7 out of 10 of the first group have excellent to good mental health, while 3 have varying degrees of mental health challenges. Therefore, 1 to 5 is not truly an accurate ratio, as we're told 1 in 5 Canadians has a mental illness. I am officially calling your bullshit. If we take the female group and apply the percentages, we find out that out of our group of 10 women, that about 6 have reported excellent to good mental health, while the other 4 have less than good and probably mental health challenges. Now, let's see what this mental picture starts to look like realistically. In our sample group of 20 people, there are 7 men who have excellent to good mental health and 6 women who have excellent to good mental health. But that also means that 7 people of the 20 have either a lack of quality in their mental health or a mental health issue directly. 6 plus 7 equals 13. Just for clarification, 7 out of 20 represents 36% of our little test group. 36% of Canadians have some form of mental health struggle or another. When we factor that in, that's 1.8 out of every 5. Again, since people are whole numbers, that's 2 people. That 1 in 5 Canadians starts to look like 2 in every 5 Canadians. And that means that 2 in 5 Canadians has some form of mental illness. Now let's look at that again. 2 in every 5 Canadians represents 40%, right? So, if every 40% of 5 people experiences a form of mental illness, then the true number out of 38 million looks more like this. And here we go. We take 38 million and reduce the sample size by a factor of 5. That gives us 1,900,000. Now, if we take 40% of that number, which is 760,000, that means that for every 2 million people, 760,000 people have a mental illness. Let that sink in. Calculate this into a grouping of 20, and that means that we can further condense the figures 1 or 2 steps further. For each grouping of 1,900,000 people, 760,000 people have a mental illness. Now it's easy. 200,000 people. 15,200,000 people. Sorry. This is real. This is actually what's happening in your country. This is what things have gotten to. With all of this bickering, all this unnecessary social indoctrination, we have stopped paying attention to the key things that matter to everyone in the world. Mental health is something that you cannot do without. So I'll say it again. 15,200,000 people out of 38 million people have a mental health crisis, issue, or ongoing, acute, or long-term issue with mental health. By my estimate, that's about 40%. Now, is my math close enough now? Mental health needs to become a motherfucking priority right fucking now. Is that enough? Are those words strong enough for you? No words are ever going to be strong enough to represent the struggles that people are going through because of the neglect and the sideswiping and all of the other crap combined. If you want the exact figure, it's not going to change things that much. So, just for entertainment purposes, let's look at that. 36% out of 38,340,000 is 13,802,400. By the way, the total amount of COVID-19 cases to date, according to Health Canada. Health Canada's COVID tracking statistics before they fell off the map was just over 55,000 cases in one day. In total, again, before the professor dropped the chalk, was 3.7 million. So the mental health crisis affecting Canadians is literally 4 times worse than COVID ever was. Canadians young and old should not have to live this way. Hey, thanks for stopping by today. Give us a like and subscribe. We can't wait for Psylord's response and the new subject we're going to talk about, so stick around.